These are the things we must ask ourselves daily.
I mean, think about it. You have Philip Bailey and Phil Collins, and you don't play off about Phil at all? Are you playing Easy Lover?
Oh, but you won't feel it. Oh, fire.
She's like no other. I can't hear anything now but Easy Lover. That's all in my head.
I said that's the only song that I've had in my head all morning.
Look, it's amazing because thank you out there, first and foremost, for hanging with us. We appreciate that. Live Before Lock MLB version. Thumbs up, subscribe. You know the drill. We'll remind you throughout. Lindquist is in the house. Tyler's producing. I'm Eytan, if you don't know. Thank you again for the three of us. And thanks to Eric because he didn't know this, but I had the Flintstones vitamin song in my head for like the past 6-7 hours. And now it's been replaced with something much easier on the brain. I can deal with Easy Lover for the next 12 or 14 before something else replaces it.
Yeah, for the people who don't know, she's an easy lover. She'll take your heart, but you won't feel it. Yeah, it's 9:18 out here on the West Coast. I'm already, yeah.
No, I was just doing that while you talk. Sorry.
I know. Well, it's kind of what my brain does 24/7. I think people are used to it by now, but I love that song. I don't know why it was in my head. I wasn't listening to it at any point, but it's just been going on loop in my brain. I don't know if anybody else has those. At least it's a respectable song. Like Philip Bailey, Phil Collins, like those are two gamers right there.
Genesis, Earth, Wind, and Fire. I mean, you're talking about all timers getting together. That's like Aerosmith and Run DMC creating the crossover Walk This Way. I mean, you know, you've got two giant, not that was a crossover, the first one, but still.
I know what you meant.
You know it.
Yeah.
You know it.
I knew what you were throwing down.
Look at Emax. See, we're speaking of Emax world here. He was at the last Earth, Wind, and Fire concert. So, you know.
I think he actually was there when they created Earth, Wind, and Fire. So yeah, I was going to say he was there as God was putting shit together.
I love it. I absolutely love it. So how are you, man? We got a couple of FanDuel games that we're going to slide in on FanDuel rankings. Let's just not bury the lead here, Lindquist. And you don't like FanDuel today.
No, I don't. It's not that I don't like FanDuel. It's just that I keep looking at the Shane Bieber ownership, and I don't want to deal with this crap today. I just don't want to. I'm going to play DK where I can play a little bit. I can still be a little under the field, but I don't feel like it's going to be apocalyptic. Feel like FanDuel, you've got to make a pretty large stand. I don't know if we've had a pitcher on a 10-game slate that got this kind of ownership all season long. It's, I think, warranted, but either way, I'm excited to talk through this slate. It's good to be back on with you. I think the people are confused. They think we hate each other, but then, you know, it's like, oh, Eric ghosts him for the radio show. And now I'm here. I can't wait to dig on in, my friend.
Well, yeah, I mean, and speaking of which, when will you be back on the radio show?
As soon as I humanly possibly can.
Okay.
I had some stuff come up in the midweek, and otherwise I definitely.
Okay. So I should still ask you to come back is what you're saying.
You should. Here's the other thing too, is it saved me from having to recommend too many bad golfers this week. So there's that.
Would you have not recommended Matty Fitz top 20? Like I told
I loved Matty Fitz.
Okay.
So here's the thing. We need Sam Burns to somehow get up into the top. And I know EMAC needs the PGA fire. We need Sam Burns to sneak a top 5, top 10. That would be amazing. He's at 1 under. It's kind of a big ask. We need Mito Pereira to die. That would be not literally, but
you should clarify that, not literally, right?
Yeah,
I'm not going down on the ship here for you saying something that gets us all in trouble.
And Matt Fitzpatrick, I think we're pretty on board with that. If he wants to go out and play well, he was my one. So the PM AM stack, Thursday PM, Friday AM. I need him to go completely nuts. He was my one big piece that I liked from that wave. So if that can work out for DFS purposes, that would be nice.
All right. So we'll return the favor. If everybody can, and the reason why he's bringing this up is because this is happening. So return the favor. Lindquist is going to make you some money on the MLB slate. And all we need is that positive vibe. I think selfishly, I mean, I have Zalatoris and Fitzpatrick outright tickets. So if you could just all the chat, push it that way. Lindquist is going to make you some money, and then it's going to even out. All right, let's jump in here. Baltimore. Now, you hinted. We'll have to hit Tampa. At least look at the pitching matchup with Watkins and Kluber. But, I mean, you mentioned this before I think we even got on, how frightened you were, how much you were getting to Baltimore. So I don't want to bury that lead in its own right. If you have a lot of interest, if you're getting to a lot of Baltimore, either from Spencer Watkins or simply a stack standpoint, we need to know about it.
Yeah, there's a couple of things about this game. So I think Corey Kluber is very fascinating. To say he's been hit and miss the last three starts would be a little bit of a dramatic understatement. Last four, technically 26.3, 25.1, negative 11.9 against the Angels in Anaheim, and then 21.9 against Detroit. I see Detroit and Oakland sandwiched between between that horrendous Angels outing. It's like anytime he gets a functional offense, he's in trouble. And I'm not calling Baltimore functional. But the wind's slightly blowing out. They have the best prospect in baseball who's batting fifth today, catcher that got brought up, Adley Rutschman. So I think he's going to be a guy that I want to play a lot at 2K. He's right now projected sub 10%. I think he's going to be a guy that gives me access to the Logan Gilberts and Freddie Peraltas of the world to get different and try to beat a lot of the Shane Bieber lineups. But you have a 5.2 implied run total for Tampa Bay, and they're mega chalk. I think Baltimore, if we're talking about it being decent, 90 degrees, wind blowing out. I know it's a worse ballpark than before, but this also is a massive piece to throw into the middle of this Baltimore lineup. I'm stacking them up a lot more than the field.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned that with Tampa, they are super chalk, might even be putting it lightly, -8.5 for their negative leverage score from a stack standpoint. And while you're not gaining a ton because not a lot of people are getting to Kluber on the mound, to countering that, in that very game, if it is a high-scoring Baltimore affair, Tampa somehow shits the bed or just doesn't live up to it, you're taking a chunk. I mean, 21.6% ownership with Tampa Bay. So definitely getting over that field with Baltimore, and there is some good leverage. I mean, decent, they're positive at least, leverage there. Tampa, how do you do this? Do you minimize the stacks that you're working with? How are you getting around this leverage?
I'm just basically going to be writing off a lot of Tampa Bay. I know it's uncomfortable, but I'm playing just DraftKings today. I know Terry McBride will be in the chat. There he is. Look at that. I knew that was going to happen. Yep. So a lot of the FanDuel, if there's a specific take, I'm more than happy. I've got the ownership. I've got everything over there, but I won't be invested in it personally. So I always want to throw that out there right away. Looking at the Tampa Bay side, though, I just think they're really overowned. Spencer Watkins is horrendous. And I said anybody who spells their name Spencer with an S in the middle of it cannot be good.
I'm so glad you that's the first thing I thought of. If you were going to stay as far away from, I was waiting, but that's the first thing I thought of. SER. No. And look, for those of you about to say anything about my name is spelled correctly in the language that it is, its origin. And your name is, there's no EY or any crazy stuff like Eric LaSalle in it, right?
It's C for correct is what it is.
Both of us are speaking, and Tyler as well. All three of us are speaking from a frame of reference here.
Tyler's just got like one strand of hair going over the side. He's pretty emo today. You look like you could definitely be part of My Chemical Romance this early.
Well, look, it's 11:30 out there for him. It's 8:30 or 9:30 for you. So he's
all right.
He's younger than you. He's struggling from last night. He went out and enjoyed himself. What did you do?
Yeah, well, I enjoyed myself as well. Right. And apparently that's carried over because they're saying better get sober. Time to sober up, Eric, because I'm going to roster Baltimore. Yeah, I'm going to roster Baltimore. It's a great hitting environment. It's maybe not the best ballpark anymore. I always go back to that Aaron Judge home run that would have been a homer in 29 of 30 ballparks that went out to left. But Rauschman, just looking at him, switch hitting catcher at 2K, sub 10K. I know Kluber will be popular, but I feel like Kluber, when he's been outside of Tampa Bay, it hasn't been as successful for him here. I'm just kind of going off of feel with this one, where I think looking at the leverage, seeing that we're going to get positive leverage, they're not the best offense, but this is one big piece, I think, to throw into the middle of this lineup. You never know, but it's pretty easy to know that if you get a top hitting prospect at 2K at catcher, you're going to play a lot of them on DraftKings.
All right, so I imagine, let's start, I guess, from the opposite end. We move to the next game, Seattle-Boston here. And if it's Logan Gilbert or Eovaldi, both of these guys are top. You mentioned Kluber. He is gaining a lot of leverage to the field, but these guys, this pitching matchup is right there at the top. So both really popping in the top two, pitcher percentage. Also, as I mentioned, right there, literally at the top, 1-2, Gilbert, Eovaldi, respectively, for positive leverage. So you can get to a ton of both of these guys and gain a lot to the fielding.
Yeah, but we just saw Nathan Eovaldi's last outing. I don't know. Poor guy. He ends up having a 25-mile-an-hour wind well, I guess it would be not at his back, at the batter's back. And he just got completely lit up. Gave up 5 home runs against the Houston Astros. Anything that was hit in the air was gone. He gave up 5 homers and 39 pitches. I mean, that's the kind of ridiculousness that Fenway had that night. I don't know if this is as ridiculous as this. It's looking like it's gusting up to 15 in Boston right now, 10 to 12 sustained. But it's, again, a really warm game environment, 85 in Boston today. These afternoon games are just going to see the ball flying a little bit more as the year goes on here. It's just a great hitting environment once again. And I love Logan Gilbert. And I think Nathan Eovaldi, it was always, a back and forth relationship I've had with him in terms of rostering him. But I think I'll take shots on Gilbert. I don't think I can really land on much Eovaldi as much as I want to. I know he's getting a ton of positive leverage. I'm looking at Gilbert and Eovaldi, but he's really giving up hard contact. And 583 expected slugging for Logan Gilbert, down around 400 with a 28% K percentage. If I'm going to take some shots in a good hitting environment here, I'm going to roster Logan Gilbert before I land on Eovaldi on DraftKings.
Now, to be fair, though, to your point, there is kind of this weird, like, middle tier of top 2% guys where it's like just below Kikuchi, and you see, like, this Singer range. We'll talk about him and Miley in a second, but those guys, and it's really just about where you're spending so much. But you mentioned the positive leverage. It's not like they're even higher up in this Peralta or even in that Bieber stratosphere for projected top 2. So I don't feel like, to what you were explaining, Eric, that you have to get to as much simply because of the positive leverage, where maybe on a shorter slate or different pitching matchup across the board, there may be more incentive to get to these guys, even though they're not the top 3, let's say top 2% pitchers.
Yeah. Eovaldi, again, it's just hard for me to land on him there. I think you explained that well. Logan Gilbert, I know that they're just unowned on this slate because of the win, because of the hitting environments, but I'm still going to get to some Gilbert. I'm probably not going to be tangoing with Eovaldi. I'm making 100 lineups. I am not probably going to get to any shares of Eovaldi still, as much as I want to.
Yeah.
I just trust the fact. Here's the thing too. Logan Gilbert, I think about Boston and Seattle, and I don't know if people recognize that Boston's actually a worse offense against right-handed pitching than Seattle is. A 112 WRC plus with a 138 ISO. That's Seattle's marks. You have a 150 ISO, so at least Boston's definitely got some pop there, but just 100 WRC plus against righties for the season. A little bit of a difference there. Seattle's going way, way under-owned comparatively, and I think I'm just more willing to take that kind of a shot as opposed to going up against Gilbert, who I believe to be a pretty good pitcher long-term. And it's hard for me to just really want to stack up anything from Boston, regardless of this hitting environment. I'll have 1 or 2 lineups actually, but nothing substantial here from the Boston side.
No, but Seattle, you may have some opportunity to work with. And just an update here from Josh Plays DFS and Justin Mauricio about the weather in the area. Rhode Island is where Justin is. Heat is crazy humid. And then Josh mentioning he's in Boston. It's the heat today, unlike the wind. So we've got the heat hitting season, and that could mean the ball could fly here.
Yeah, and that's what I'm looking at from Seattle. Again, I'm with them where I didn't say that it was going to be even close to that Houston game was a joke. Greg brought me onto it. He's just like, you have to put this thing on when we were on Live Before Lock. And every pop fly was leaving the yard. Every single one. Again, under 40 pitches, 5 homers from Eovaldi. That's not a thing that he typically does. So do I expect him to have a better outing than that one? I would think so, but I still am kind of hoping it goes worse for him there. You have a completely unowned Logan Gilbert there at the top. I'm far more inclined to click on that, regardless of what people think.
All right, so let's go to Philly now. And I can tell you it's weird here from a weather standpoint. It's supposed to get stormy, but still stay really humid around like 3:30 or so. So we're dealing with weather and we're dealing with this issue across the board, but it just may not be too impactful at the time. With that said, Dodgers, that 5.2 implied run total. Philly's just a little bit less. You've got Gonsolin and Eflin. Let's start there because I think the angle of where you're going from a pitching maybe matchup or just standpoint is going to be a little deeper than I think just looking at these bats, which might pop out a little more on the surface.
Yeah, I've been trying to make some stands with Gonsolin of late, just because I think the pitch count was always going to be ramping up, and I was right about it. I didn't get completely paid off because on the 16th, the last time that he pitched against Arizona in that spot that I was in love with him at home, he got up to 92 pitches, but every other pitcher on the slate smashed, and he was the most expensive guy at 10-2. He's now 9,600. So I think this firmly puts him back into play of a guy that I just want to be invested in because I think his stuff has always been very, very good. 287 expected slugging this season, just a 22.7% K percentage. But we've talked about Logan Gilbert and Eovaldi up there in the expensive range. They're in terrible spots in terms of what that wind is doing in Fenway and with the heat that was referred to in chat by Josh. I'm looking at the rest of the range. Shane Bieber is going to garner a ridiculous amount of attention and rightfully against Detroit. Freddie Peralta, I'm going to want to get up to, but Gonsolin just feels like another unowned piece that's sitting in the middle there. He's got a 7% top two pitcher percentage, a 6.5% leverage score. He's under 1% out of 150 lineups or 100. If you're making that like me today, I'm going to have some shares of Gonsolin and I don't feel so bad about it.
Eflin, on the other hand here, and no, not enough for you.
Yeah, the Dodgers.
I would stay as far.
Talked about positive regression for them. They've already vaulted up the board. They're now the top offense against right-handed pitching. 123 WRC plus, 181 ISO. I love Edwin Rios so much. This guy is like my new favorite thing. He's my flavor of the not even week. It's been like a month-long affair with this guy against righties. Batting fourth there in the middle of that. I'm just clean up Edwin Rios at 3,100 on DK. Let's go. Not going to go like 20% or something like that. But sure. I mean, I've been playing this guy a lot on FanDuel when he's been 2K, and then over on DK, he's been really, really cheap. This is a lot different than him batting fifth, sixth, seventh as well. Getting cleanup against Eflin here. I'm about all of these lefties, and I'm throwing in some righties as well. Probably going to skip over. I mean, Turner's been better of late, but I'm just looking at Muncy. I'm looking at Freeman. I'm looking at all of the usual suspects here from the left side for the Dodgers primarily.
Yeah, I would not touch anybody like at all throwing the ball against the Dodgers the way in which this series has played out so far. Harper is in the lineup though, so you were touching and mentioning where you're going to kind of counter Zach Eflin. Hoskins leading off. I mean, this is a pretty good attackable lineup if you like the matchup against Gonsolin.
Yeah, I feel bad for Bryce Harper, which is a weird thing because I don't know if I've ever really liked him. He's an amazing baseball player, but
how could you not like Bryce Harper? A guy that
I felt bad for him. Did you see how much? Did you see how much he was holding his elbow when he was at the plate yesterday? It was.
Hey, this is an MVP. This is what you do to go above and beyond. All right, it's what Joel Embiid did when he had a broken face. He went above and beyond. Where was the sympathy for Embiid when he had a broken face?
He got a PRP injection in his freaking UCL. It's a UCL sprain. Like, this cannot be good for Bryce Harper to be out there playing baseball. But so long as he is,
swing the bat.
He can really swing a baseball bat. I mean, if you're looking for contrarian, it's 90 degrees there. We're talking about this repeatedly in the Northeast. You guys just enjoy this lovely surge of weather you're starting to get here. But it's almost 90 degrees in Philly. The wind's slightly blowing out to right. You can play Schwarber. You can play Harper. I don't know how I could possibly say you couldn't play those guys. But Gonsolin's a very good pitcher as well. I would say it would go Gilbert, him, Eovaldi in the way that I view them in terms of the three that are in just horrendous game environments, but are pretty serviceable pitchers. I like Gonsolin, I think, a little bit more than the other two today, just because this Philly lineup, there's going to be strikeouts that you can still get. And I feel like Gonsolin is still a guy that just long-term, as the pitch count has gone up here, is a little bit better pitcher than what he's getting credit for in terms of ownership today. Yeah,
I mean, with the weather combined with the matchup, and look, if Gonsolin goes deep, like super deep, then it does mitigate what I'm about to say. But this lineup is built for third time around, wearing down, bullpen. So to your point, you may get 6 2/3 strong with Gonsolin. You may get something along that where the Phillies don't put up much. And then this lineup, wherever you're getting to, even if it's 2-man down to 1-offs, starts to come alive a little bit deeper in the game just because of the weather. I think it's going to get a little bit warmer as the storms kind of pass out. But look, I understand completely where you're coming from.
I mean, they have a 4.6 implied run total.
They're going to score.
Vegas is telling you that there's going to be runs to be had.
I agree.
Here, I mean, does Gonsolin pitch through 5-6? Can he kind of come out unscathed, or is Philly just going to go completely nuts right from the jump? I don't know. No. I just think that he's a better pitcher than, 4.6 seems like a hefty number. That's the exact same number as Seattle going up against Eovaldi, right. And that doesn't feel right to me. But I get it. I understand it completely.
That's all. By the way, Embiid, broken face, orbital thumb.
I'm aware.
No. Just, the slander in the chat here for a guy who's playing is just, it's It's difficult.
Yeah.
It's difficult.
Yeah, I hate how they have Rios and Freeman both at first. Yeah, that's the reason I would be playing at FanDuel today, is to be able to stack up some Dodgers correctly, but whatever, such is life.
Yeah, I mean, nothing really has, and I know we have these two games here and Tyler's put them in on the left side of the screen at the bottom with the Yankees and Rockies hosting respectively here, but it doesn't seem like much has significantly changed. Like, I imagine it will when we talk about Shane Bieber, we get to that game, maybe a couple of other guys as we get to more of a top 1%, but it doesn't seem like so far, even with the Boston-Seattle game, that much would change. Like, if you're getting to somebody on DK, you're probably getting to them in a similar amount so far of what we talked about from a stack. It hasn't seemed like the addition of those two games has truly changed, yet at least, has truly changed approach on either side for you.
No, I don't think so. I mean, it all revolves around what you're doing with Bieber on FanDuel in a pitching sense. On DK, I'm going to get to some. I'm just not going to be over the field by any means at this egregious number that we have.
Okay. Well, let's go to Toronto here at the risk of pissing more people off with Joel Embiid versus Giannis.
You're always such a good-mannered individual that's never rubbed anybody the wrong way in chat.
No, not by chat. I mean, my goodness, I for my day-to-day interactions, I'll take the shit I get from chat anytime. Absolutely.
As opposed to the shit from your actual baby.
Yes, or the shit from people here in Philadelphia who are just, you think I'm crazy. I saw somebody say, oh, typical Phillies fan. You should see the people I deal with on the regular basis. All right. You think Lofty and Awesemo are crazy. Shit. All right. With that said, let's go. Let's get out of Philadelphia.
Stop it. Mike's crazy.
They all are. Toronto. All right. Let's look at this. I mentioned Kikuchi. How much are you getting to the field here with this pitching matchup that we have? I mean, look, Cincinnati, you're not going to get much at all going at the bottom. More so, though, Kikuchi could give you something if you are dealing with, it's not a terrible score, but somewhat of a negative leverage play.
I'm not a Kikuchi guy. I've never been a Kikuchi guy. 24.3% K percentage is nice. Good to finally see that. This is a terrible offense, but I've never been somebody to play a ton of him. Now, I will say he's less popular than what I was expecting. I know there's still negative leverage there. He's at 23% with just a top two percentage of 14.3%. But I was kind of expecting him to be around 30, 35%. We've seen that a lot with Kikuchi slates where he's sub 7K and people play him at will. But you get Brady Singer and you get Graham Ashcraft or whatever his name is there at the very bottom. I feel like those guys are going to be more important in terms of just like stacking up every bit of the bats as opposed to trying to take a shot on a chalkier Kikuchi compared to them relative to them. So I'm probably going to be lower on this. Well, I am going to be lower by far on 23%. I'll still get around maybe 10, 15. I'll probably put a cap on him here as we're building throughout this show, but he's just not the most appealing arm for me, even against one of the worst, maybe the worst offense in baseball.
Yeah. And there's nothing on the other end from a Cincinnati standpoint that you could.
I'll probably do it. Matt Reynolds batting leadoff here. Brandon Drury couldn't travel because he's not vaccinated. So Matt Reynolds has been leadoff here. I played him the other night. I'll probably play him again. 2,400 on DraftKings. Tyler Stevenson, decent enough catcher, but just so expensive for him at 5K. It's kind of an overpay to be contrarian. And Tommy Pham, I think you can definitely get to those guys, but yeah, it's not the most appealing offense by any means to be getting to. Aquino's back in the lineup here, but he's just, I miss those days when he was good. There was like that hot season, 2 years ago, where he came out of the game, just homered every single time out. And I picked him up in a year-long league and just went nuclear at the end of the season.
Yep.
Those days are gone. Taylor Motter, he's got great hair. That's the nicest thing I can say about him. I don't really have interest in the back half of this lineup, but 1 through 4, maybe 1 through 5. If you wanted to land on some Farmer, I'm okay with getting shares, but nothing to go nuts with.
Yeah, they're catching ownership here, and you're going up against Graham Ashcraft, so it's not like a powerhouse in the making by any means. But I don't know if you're going to get to, or where are you getting to Toronto? Let me phrase it that way, as a team that you can definitely work their 0.9 negative leverage score in your favor here. They are decently ranked as a top stack. But and on DK here, I'm on DK. You still have the Dodgers and you still have Tampa ahead of them.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Toronto offense. That's what can you say? They have a 5.3 implied run total going up against Ashcraft, and he's I don't really know what to say. I mean, this is such a good offense. It's not one of those crazy hot game environments that we have in some of these other spots because you're in the dome there in Toronto. But I feel like this offense against Ashcraft is definitely very, very live here. We'll kind of see what ends up happening with him at AAA Louisville over the course of this season. 2.48 ERA. That looks nice. But then a 1.52 whip. Something's going to give here in some capacity for Ashcraft. I'm going to find out. We're going to see kind of what he ends up being as a major leaguer. But I don't really want to go completely nuts with him by any means. The nice thing is he's 4K. So if you want to take a couple of those shots with me, you at least have the path to do it. But he's succeeded at every single level. He's a decent enough prospect.
Yep.
I mean, he was a 6th rounder in 2019. Not much to be said about that. This is a brutal, brutal spot to be making your major league debut. So best of luck to him. I hope he has a decent enough outing, but playing a lot of Toronto on the other side.
So let's go to Cleveland because this has a bigger storyline with Bieber, and there's nothing else outside of that from where we're going with Detroit stacks. Let's just look at Bieber. Focus on Bieber. Hit the thumbs up, please. A reminder, make sure you're subscribed here as well. You want to take advantage of everything we have going on across the board. So this is crazy. Just looking at our promo code that we have now for this new discount of Awesemo Plus Platinum. So basically, this is what we have. Everything, all the Awesemo Plus tools, content for nearly every DFS sport that we can provide, the Awesemo Plus Platinum Pass. Now, if you're a new user of Awesemo Plus Platinum, you can save up to 50% off your first month. That's it. All you have to do, click that link. We always have this nice, easy link for you below in these videos, so you don't even have to go and do anything outside of that. It's right below us, right below Eric. Click that link, and when you sign up, use our promo code MLB Live. You see it, Tyler has put it up there for you. MLB Live, all caps, it's one word. And then again, you're getting 50% off your first month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. It's insane. It's insanity. You can get our Awesemo Plus MLB package for as low as $18.95 a week, but just take advantage of everything. You can win in sports that you don't even know anything about because you can just trust our projections. That's what Lindquist is doing, or he's also giving his own projections and winning, right?
No.
You do both.
No. No, I mean, we have the best projections in the game. There's no need to go outside of that, especially in a sport like baseball. NBA, you can have discrepancies in minutes, but now you can adjust that directly on the page in Fantasy Cruncher. Don't kid yourself. We save so much time for you with the guys behind the scenes, Alex Baker, Steve Buzzard. That is the best part about being here at Awesemo. Those projections for MMA, especially. I know Adam, somebody who likes to take time to build things out. He has been more and more, I think, reliant, ship my money on our projections for MMA as well. They're the best in the industry. So I'm never, ever, ever going to say anything about my process or something as opposed to being able to just get it directly from the best players in the world.
Well, no, I wasn't pitting the two against each other. I was saying that you can use one to help aid the other.
Correct.
So if you're looking, like you may have your own because look, you're a successful DFS player, so it would stand to reason that you have your own process. But if you're venturing into unknown territory, if you're venturing into a sport that maybe you don't play, or if you're looking at it from taking advantage of the fact that you happen to work for a place that's providing these top-notch level projections, you're going to use it. That's all I'm saying. It was to combine the two.
This is true. Okay. Yeah,
You're so
just
combative by nature. You think that everything is just.
Get over it. You're going to be okay. We're going to keep going. I love you.
You want to go to Cleveland?
Yeah, I'm just literally building lineups.
Have you been to Cleveland
copying,
before?
pasting stuff. I have never been to Cleveland. I really don't have any desire.
Oh, no. I'm sure there are about 15 people watching right now that not only have been to Cleveland, but live in a 100-mile vicinity that would give you 3 things to do in Cleveland that would be life-changing. Now,
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
No. I was just about to take that out. Take the chalk out, all right? We're countering the field here. This is a leverage play. I don't need the bullshit that Lindquist just mentioned. We need the real stuff, all right? See, McBride. Yeah. Cleveland was better than I expected.
Yeah, he told me that story once upon a time because I made fun of Cleveland that time. And Terry was like, oh, I went to a wedding there. It was great. So
look, I'm not sticking up for Cleveland. I'm just saying that I'm sure there is a misnomer about just how bad it is. Tyler saying he'd rather play in traffic then visit Cleveland. I think that there is some middle ground here, and I guarantee you there are 3 life-changing things that you could do, Eric Lindquist, in Cleveland that would completely revolutionize your point of view of the city.
I'm married now, probably not.
Fair. All right, let's look at Bieber at least. The real Bieber. Biebs.
I don't know what to do with you, but yeah, Shane Bieber, he's the talking point of this entire slate, because how can you not love this spot for him going up against a Detroit offense, especially against right-hand pitching? They are just abysmal in every sense of the word. 23.8% K percentage, that's 10th in baseball up against right-handed pitching, and just a 70 WRC plus. That is dead last in Major League Baseball against right-handed pitching. So I look at Shane Bieber on FanDuel as Terry, because again, I'm not playing there today because I looked at it. I didn't want to be playing on 2 sites building for a couple hours and trying to figure out what to do with like 42.4% owned Shane Bieber on DraftKings, or sorry, on FanDuel, but on DraftKings at 54.3, I'm just going to be underneath that number. I don't find it to be any more appealing to go to like a 55%. If you were 30%, maybe there's reason to jam, but we have so many other guys, whether it's Freddie Peralta for 1,500 more, whether it's Logan Gilbert for $1,000 more, that I'll be taking some aggressive stance in a terrible game environment. Even Sandy Alcantara, he's getting only 30.6%, or Alcantara, I believe is the correct pronunciation, yes, but whatever. Negative 11.1% leverage. That is less than half of the negative leverage you're looking at from Shane Bieber. So I'm not going to be touching. I capped him at 40%. And I think I'm going to get even a little bit less than that on DK. But on FanDuel, it's such a broken tag at 8,600. I don't know what I would do with it. So I just quit trying to figure it out.
Yeah, 40, you're still 14 or so percent below the field there. So it's somewhat workable in the sense, and you're not entirely wiped out like you would be plus 50%, I would imagine. If in fact Bieber gets rocked or just doesn't pan out as expected.
Yeah, but here's the thing. He could pitch great. He could pitch great, but you give yourself access to so many other spots. And obviously your stack is going to be how you primarily win MLB tournaments. Like you're going to have the perfect game once in a while, or a no-hitter that shows up in lineups, or a 15 strikeout game. But really what it comes down to is you have so many spots that are batters in your MLB lineups. And so your stack is going to be such an important component of it. But that doesn't mean that we want to be disregarding it. Pitching is far more projectable than hitting in every sense of the word, far less variant. And so you look at the rest of the board that surrounds Shane Bieber, and yeah, it's going to be riskier going to Logan Gilbert in that game environment, getting to Freddie Peralta and leaving, $1,500 that you can't go put towards bats in your life. But I think doing it a number of times, like if you were to run this slate out 100 times, does Shane Bieber end up optimal more than half of it? Maybe. But the number of times that he fails, you're just going to be capitalizing on 55, 60% of the field that's just dead at the jump. So I feel like shorting him is the only way to go. On FanDuel, it felt really uncomfortable. Terry even just said that he's going to be underneath the field on the blue site. And I think that that's the approach that I would take, but it makes me feel really uncomfortable just knowing how horrendous this Tigers lineup is against righties.
And that's kind of where I wanted to go here. We do have to circle back to Cleveland because we may be in the running for most Awesemo employees weighing in on a simple topic on the chat here. Gundacker is in this now because of Awesemo's Cleveland comment. Like we've got a whole Awesemo crew thanks to Awesemo's murder in Cleveland. Things to do in Cleveland when you're dead comment. But with that, man, Detroit, it's just the obvious play. Like, look, they're getting
okay, yeah, no.
See that?
That's Awesemo is
Awesemo. Be careful because Baker's going to come in here and be like, hey, Lindquist, I didn't say that shit.
No. Baker's probably watching. Shout out our boss man. Shout out our boss man.
Yes. And he did not make the murder comment. That was our producer, Mike Awesemo. There's a difference here, right? I told you earlier, Lindquist, I'm not going down for something that you say.
He's crazy. There it is. We found out, Mike. What's up, my dude?
Mike,
what's up?
Mike.
Also, we have 582 people here on a Sunday talking some baseball.
Appreciate that.
How amazing is this? Smash the like button. Let's keep it partying. Let's keep it going.
Mike said in chat that it was actually an autocorrect. He meant to say his buddy got married in Cleveland.
Yeah, married and murdered are two different things.
I don't know, man. I'm now suspicious of Mike's story and his buddy that disappeared. We may need to look into this further.
Well, Lindquist just told you why he disappeared. He got married. All right. You're never going to hear from him again. That's it. Look, Detroit right now, if you look at, they're getting 0.6. They are right there at the bottom of the projected top stack by the aforementioned Alex Baker. They've got nothing working for him except a small amount of positive leverage. Outside, of course, that if, for whatever reason, Shane Bieber just doesn't do what 54.3% of the field expects, you are sitting really nice and pretty right. I mean, that's the obvious look. So you could get to like 1.5 to 2% Detroit and still be heavy over the field in that regard and maybe gain a little leverage if, in fact, that does work out.
No.
Watch. Detroit's going to score 6 runs.
I have 1 of 100, and I'm probably going to remove it here. Normally, like 99% of the time, when you have a really popular pitcher like this, and I'm going to be underweight to them, I'm hoping that they fail. I find it impossible, like almost impossible for Detroit. And watch this. This is going to be that Oakland situation in Tampa Bay against whomever that was that day, and it just is going to slap me in the face. But I just find it impossible that Shane Bieber doesn't put up a double-digit score on DraftKings today. Like it feels next to impossible. Basically, what you're hoping is that he gives up. It's like 5, limits the strikeouts, or Detroit limits the strikeouts. But for them to be successful looking at this lineup, yeah, that's a no from me, dog. Will Castro batting second is so egregious that I can't even put words to how bad of a decision that is as a manager to have Will Castro. You should just put Torkelson and bat him second. What are you doing putting Will Castro in the year of our Lord 2022 batting second in a major league lineup? It is such an egregious choice that I don't even have words for it. He has a sub 100 ISO. He has a 293 WOBA, whatever. Like, it is an egregious decision. So I'm looking at Spencer Torkelson. If you wanted to take a shot at somebody in that lineup, 2,300, Javier Baez, 4,400. Yeah, even that, like, no, thank you. I can get so much more potency. It's a 10-game slate. There's no need to get overweight just because it's a super popular pitcher. I would normally be in the side of, yes, you could always do it, but I'm not even going to do it myself today.
2 things. One, that's the correct pronunciation, or pardon me, spelling of Spencer. So at the very least, you can feel a little bit better about getting to Torque than you can Watkins.
Yeah, even though he has a 179 average, just 4 homers, 6
I'm just saying,
OPS. He's supposed to be better than this.
If all things are equal, Eric, do you not defer to the correct spelling of somebody's name?
Yeah, that's correct. And Spencer and Spencer are 2 worlds apart in terms of what you can expect for them going forward.
And 2, I would just add, I mean, 1.5 to the 0.6% ownership is not insane, right?
What? Yeah, I mean, it's pretty insane. I'm not going to
play with it. Okay.
Did you just talk yourself into playing Bieber yourself? I was always going to play Bieber. I'm just going to be well under the field.
Yeah, nobody ever said here, and nobody meaning you, that you weren't going to play the most popular guy in the field. To be fair, it was the deterrent of why you're not playing FanDuel, but on DraftKings, you certainly are. As Terry mentioned, he himself at that 40%. So that's kind of where you are in that range?
I'm at 35% on DK. Okay, I put a cap. I had it at 40. I just took it down and put it at 35 as you were saying that. So that's amazing.
All right, there we go. So look, is there anything else here that you can extrapolate from this game before we move on to Miami?
Cleveland, you can always roster Jose Ramirez. You can always roster some of those guys on the other side. For Cleveland specifically, I mean, it's not the most appealing spot in the entire world. They have negative leverage, but I'm going to pluck some guys for one-offs. So I'm going to have Jose Ramirez. I'm looking at my main lineup right now. I'm kind of toying with 2 different spots of going either Jose Ramirez or another flip-flop spot. We'll talk about a little bit here later with Jazz Chisholm. So definitely makes a great spend up there at 3rd. Chisholm at 2nd, we'll get to later. But I definitely like Jose Ramirez every single day ending in Y, and I don't know why I wouldn't.
Is Cleveland really the worst home city right now on the board? Like if you had
Cincinnati, I can't imagine. I feel like I would rather go to Cleveland than Cincinnati.
No, Cincinnati is on the road. They're in Toronto.
But they're on the road. I was just saying out of teams in general.
No. It has to be
Milwaukee.
It has to be
Milwaukee's great. I've been to Milwaukee. It's great. Chicago.
I've been to Milwaukee,
Houston.
and I'm going to challenge that statement, sir.
Oh, you must not like cheese
curds. You said Milwaukee was great. Like Milwaukee's tolerable.
Cheese curds and beer? Oh, come on. Stop it.
No, look, only people from Milwaukee or the state say that Milwaukee is great. Or people
what's wrong with Framil Reyes? He's not good anymore. It sucks. I loved him.
Yeah.
When he was hitting double dongs in Petco, and now he can't hit it out of Cleveland, it's a problem. It's a problem.
It is a problem.
Miami batting sixth today now too. Yeah, they're demoting him already. Owen Miller is just confirmed good though. Like I think Owen Miller might be just freaking good, even though it's not really showing up in StatCast. 35.7% hard hit percentage, 426 expected slugging, but he's just outkicking his coverage. I mean the underlying number is not nearly as good, but I mean he's making contact and it's just finding he's finding ways to put up scores. So 286. Average 4 homers, 827 OPS. That's doable if you want to get to that too.
Okay. Miami, let's get to that here. And we've got Anderson. You mentioned Alcantara there as another option. And maybe we should look at Sandy just because of, in comparison to how you brought up Shane Bieber, where you're looking at rostering him compared to the field.
Which one?
Your boy, Sandy.
Oh my God, Sandy. Sandy Alcantara. I always have to make sure that I say that correctly.
Sandy is nickname for what? Do you know?
I don't know. I just think Sandy from Greece.
No, do you know what Sandy is a nickname, like the name Sandy?
No, I don't.
Alexander.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. See, you learned something.
Yeah. That's why we pay you the kind of big bucks here at Awesemo. That's what we do. Sandy Alcantara. It's not a very good K percentage here, but looking at the lineup, you're going to have Ks that are available to you. Acuna up around 35% here for the season. Ozzy Albies in the middle of that lineup, the only guy with a sub 20% K percentage on the entire slate here. So there's going to be an increased K potential for him there. He's just around 21% here for his season so far. And that's kind of what he's been for his entire career. So it's not that we're expecting much there, but he's just been such a good real life pitcher that you have to kind of find ways to get to a little bit. It also comes down to the fact that on FanDuel at 10-1, that is an easy way for me to get contrarian and hope that Bieber just doesn't rack up all the Ks. Maybe an accelerated K spot here against Atlanta for him. I'm okay getting to a little bit on DK. I won't be getting to the field on him either, in the same way that I won't be getting to the field on Bieber. I'm basically shorting all three of those more popular pitchers in Kikuchi, in Bieber, in Alcantara. But I will say this is definitely going to be somebody that I have shares of as well.
All right. So I know you're not getting to him from a personal standpoint, but because we explained how Bieber was such a deterrent on FanDuel, assuming you are getting to 150 on FanDuel, how does that work with Sandy here, who has a great top 1 percentage score, significantly less negative leverage than Bieber? And I imagine, although there's a gap, maybe not significant, but there is a price gap between the two, in Alcantara being the pay up option, there's still maybe more maneuverability or wiggle room here.
Yeah, again, FanDuel 10-1, that's pretty up there, 1,500 more, but you're paying up to be somewhat contrarian compared to that. He's 1/4 of the ownership of Bieber. And so everything on FanDuel is relative to what Bieber's ownership is. On DK, again, you can play him as an SB2. He's 9K for Bieber, 8,800 for Alcantara. I'm just fine if you want to land on shares of them, but just be aware there's so many pivots. Merrill Kelly, who we'll talk about here in a second, slight negative leverage, but basically appropriately owned going up against the Cubs, which is always appealing for me. My favorite pitcher on the slate being Freddie Peralta. I'm just getting up to be contrarian every place that I can to get to him. Just against Washington, I feel like you're avoiding one batter on a day in, day out basis. I just feel pretty confident that getting away from all of the ownership going their directions and scattershotting to some of the guys that are in that 9K range is the right way to go. I'm just looking at him as an okay option. There's no doubt I'm going to have some shares of him, but getting to 31% of Alcantara is just not going to happen.
Anderson's 8,200 on DK. You're gaining a lot of positive leverage. He has some decent value. He's right there in the middle, basically kind of flat in the middle there as far as a top 2% pitcher. I don't know. I mean, you're not saving anything by going to him as a P2. So maybe you look at him as a cheaper option if you're building bats.
I want to, because this is a guy that I used to really like to roster. He had the K stuff right out of the gate. 2020, we're talking the dark days of baseball, no fans in the stands. The guy was unbelievable that season. 29.7% K percentage, 2.42 expected ERA. We saw some regression. I think we all expected some regression as batters started to figure him out. A much larger sample size of pitching, over 2,000 pitches in 2021, 23.2% K percentage, 4.32 expected ERA. He's still been a pretty good real life pitcher, down to a 3.49 expected ERA this time around. But we have seen such a drop off in the strikeouts. Mid 90s fastball. The changeup's all right, but it's not really any kind of a scary pitch to me. He's really not, he doesn't really have any immense strikeout pitch. And that makes it hard for me to want to go overboard in this kind of a spot. I understand Miami is always going to be a decent enough matchup. I want to pull the trigger because, again, I do expect that K percentage to at least climb away from 16.2%. And this is maybe the spot that happens, but I'm still finding it hard because I don't know exactly what's going on with him. And I've tried to figure it out, but it hasn't really had the results. I'm going to be over the field. It's not hard to be at 1%, but I'm not going to get carried away with him today.
Okay. Let's look at the two stacks kind of in relation to how you talked about both pitchers.
The stacks, I mean, Atlanta going up against Alcantara, I'm going to have a little bit. I mean, there's definitely potential that exists with the likes of these guys, but we have so many good game environments on the board that how do you make way for Atlanta to be like a priority stack or a 3-max stack? I really don't see that kind of potential. But out of 100, I've stacked them up around 4 or 5 times. Let me see. I will pull it up. I have them in 5 lineups. So I might make that 4 here just in a second, but I think they're okay to get to. Ronald Acuna, Matt Olson, come on. They're phenomenal. And those two guys alone have some viability. Dansby Swanson starting to join the party. One of Terry and I's boys. Shout out Vanderbilt. But I think we need Dansby Swanson in kind of these stacks to maybe achieve some of the full upside, because it seems like the middle of this lineup has just been dragging. Ozzy Albies, Austin Riley are just hard to get to at 4.9K and 5K. So I think you need to find some paths to either roster a Dansby Swanson at shortstop or get like a 2.2K Adam Duvall, who's just been horrendous this season. So I think finding paths to some of those guys in your stacks is fine, but 3.5 implied runs against a good pitcher in a tough ballpark, not something you want to get carried away with either.
Nope. Makes sense. Especially as you talk about in relation to the bigger stack that we have, even adding those extra 2 games, which we'll finish on with FanDuel. So Houston now from Miami, 5.1 implied run total. Texas, not nearly the same here. Some of that having to do clearly with the pitching matchup, but only really under 4, 3.7. So if you want to look at the bats first, if you want to look at Houston and what you can really gain here, not a terrible, negative leverage score. They are somewhat in that top pack. You do have the Dodgers, who we talked about, Tampa, Toronto. So you have some offenses. What's going on in Boston, we'll see with the Heat kind of aiding that. But then you get into that Houston range. So there is some workability here. They're not a highly owned stack compared to squads like Boston and Tampa. So if you like Houston, there's some room here.
Oh, I always like Houston. Houston's always one of my favorite teams to roster. And
at home,
I will say, when you take Tampa Bay off your board or significantly downgrade them, it opens up a lot of possibilities, I think, for stacks that might be negatively leveraged or about appropriately owned. And you can make more aggressive stances with them. I'm also going to be shorter on Bieber. I think that's going to cut a lot of the ownership in my lineups, where I don't have any problem whatsoever going to Houston and rostering as many of these bats as humanly possible. There's really nobody. Taylor Hearn sure isn't going to scare me off of getting to a bunch of Houston shares. And I will say from the left side, what happens that's really nice too is Jordan Alvarez ends up being sub 6%. That is my favorite individual one-off to get to on this slate. If you're trying to get different in a tournament or in any kind of specific way, I mean, him and Kyle Tucker from the left side, 5K and 5,500, left on left, doesn't matter to me. I'm absolutely going to get to him. Alvarez, 706 slugging, just crushes everybody. This Houston team is going to be one that I get to quite a bit on today's slate.
So the flip side now, just looking at the pitching matchup, and you alluded to it with Hearn, where you're not going to gain much at all. He's kind of at the bottom. You can work some positive leverage score as a pay down option, but so is Urquidy at 6,500 DK. But unlike Hearn, a lot more people are getting to Urquidy, and that's really dampening his leverage down to a negative score with nearly 10% projected ownership. So, we'll talk about what Singer. We did mention Kikuchi as guys in that like 65 and less range. So we're dealing with another guy who's a pay down option, Eric, but still pretty popular in Urquidy.
Yeah, I'm hoping the switch flip for Brady Singer, once touted prospect. I'm going to be anti-Twins today, that's for sure, and that's not a comfortable thing to say as a Twins fan. But I think Brady Singer is going to be my choice guy down here. I think I'm going to land on a little bit of Urquidy against Texas. Hard not to have any kind of interest. They've been, you get Corey Seager obviously in the middle of that lineup, and that ends up being one piece that's decent enough from the left side. But on the whole, 85 WRC plus and just a 123 ISO against right-handed pitching. Urquidy's going to be a guy who's just fine to land on. I don't think anybody expects any kind of immense K upside from him. He's only got a 13.5% K percentage on this season, but he's going to see better results than he's had. 6.94 expected ERA isn't exactly great. There's no way that I'm going to get to even 10% of him, but if we got to a couple of them, I'm going to be all right with it. He's in the pool. I haven't removed him entirely just because of how bad this Texas offense is. But I'm seeing in some spots, we've only got him at 8%. I'm seeing some spots got him around 10, 12, whatever. He's just a guy that can fall into lineups.
All right. You mentioned the Royals game here with Minnesota. You're fading a lot of Minnesota. So this is difficult. I understand. This is a difficult thing. It's much easier for me when I told you like 6 games ago to just stay the hell away from Philadelphia. I don't know what the difference is, but I have no problem telling you to stay the hell away from them. Why is it so difficult for you to fade your own team? Why is it so difficult? Jeez, you need to be on the couch.
I love you. Don't hurt me, please.
I'm 3,000 miles away from you.
Oh yeah, that's true. You can't do shit about it.
No. Although Jordan's close, so I could probably pay him to do something to you. Right?
It's not very nice.
It's not very nice.
He sends it back. It's all right. We're playing tennis.
Oh. Are you going to... There is a question pending, sir.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
We got to get out of here in like 27 minutes.
You're going to be fine. I'm just finishing stuff up here. Okay. Brady Singer, 4,900. Go team. Brady Singer, please be it today. This is my big stand on DK. I think on the cheap end, in order to get up to all the offenses and all the land and get away from some of the other spots, I think you got to be looking at Brady Singer as a guy who's turned a corner in the early going of this season. 30% K percentage, 2% walk rate. I don't expect either of those two things to be the case long-term, but this was a first-round pick. He was the guy, 6'5", mid-90s fastball. The slider is exceptional. I feel like this might be the spot where you just want to be early to the party on some of the signs that you're seeing from Brady Singer. 36.4% hard hit percentage. He's limiting that here. A 1.99 expected ERA. How do you not roster a ton of this guy? He should not be 4,900. That's really all it comes down to. And I'm going to have an astronomical amount of him on DraftKings. He's my highest owned pitcher there. Take that for what you will.
So more Brady than Bailey today is what you're telling us.
Yeah. Bailey Ober's 7,700. And I've never believed in his stuff. And I want to. Again, I cheer for all my Twins guys, and I hope that they can kind of make it happen. I know Terry's been a lot higher on Bailey Ober than I have been, but just a 19.3% K percentage, of 569 expected slugging in Kansas City here. It's, pretty cool compared to the East Coast. 64 degrees there in KC. You could fall into some shares, but you can say that about a lot of pitchers on this slate. And there's nothing that makes him some kind of a better play to me other than just positive leverage. He's a little bit cheaper than the 8, 9K tier. He just, again, can be a guy who can fall into lineups, but in no way a priority for me.
No, and then that's a big issue by all means. So I understand when you're trying to, move away from that. Let's look on the other side here from the bats, and especially if you were not getting to a lot of Bailey Ober by all means. The Royals, what are you doing with that low-owned stack somewhat, on the bottom of as far as ownership is concerned, but it's also in relation to how low they're projected. So you're not gaining a ton of leverage unless you know something we don't.
No, there's really nothing for offense for me here. Minnesota, they're the most positively leveraged stack to get to on this slate. And I'll have a couple just because I have so much Brady Singer. But if you don't have as much Brady Singer as me, there's really not a need to go out and prioritize anything from Minnesota. Do we know the kind of upside that you get from the likes of a Max Kepler against a righty from time to time? You can get to some Jorge Polanco. All of that looks fine and all and well. But with no Buxton in the lineup, there's really no need for me to roster much Minnesota.
No. And by the way, hockey freak Sean, because we know a lot of people popping in is NBA, NHL wind down. Yes, 4 players from one team stack. Although you minimize it to 3-2. We talk about that.
What? Well, no, I always go 5. So I'm playing 5 every lineup on DK. I'll have 5-man stacks.
But you'll also have smaller stacks within that 5, will you not?
Yeah, I'll have like a 2 once in a while. I rarely go 5-3 anymore.
No. This is you just being so combative that you hear one thing in your head. I'm telling you.
I'll tell you what.
What is wrong with you today? You are really
I'm crushing. I know I'm fantastic. I'm just happy. I'm just enjoying myself right now. I'm enjoying working with my friend Eytan. I'm enjoying the opportunity that I get to talk baseball. I'm having a great time.
Wait a second. You sound like you're in one of these hostage videos. They are feeding me great. I am fine. Don't worry about me. I'm good.
I'm just fine. Everybody, I'm great.
You can sell that pretty well. Well, you're an actor.
Thank you.
So I'm not surprised.
I have my moments.
You do. All right, let's go to, well, I messed this up here. So we're next.
Of course you did.
Yeah.
What's wrong with you today, Eytan?
Well, look, I'm not upset. I admit that I fucked something up, but I'm not upset. There's a difference, right?
Good. I just
Tyler has every right to be upset because I messed this whole thing up. So where we go now, right? We wind down these and we have to go into our next game, Washington, right? We talked a little bit about that. And you are all ready to go here with Freddie Peralta. You are all, as they say, Peralta'd up when it comes to this slate.
So Brady Singer is a large stand that I'm making, but he's not my favorite play on the slate. My favorite play on the slate is Freddie Peralta. He's at 15% right now on DK. And that's just weird to me. I don't understand why people aren't getting up to more Freddie Peralta. At the same time that I get why against Detroit, Shane Bieber, he's super underpriced. Everything, he checks just about every single box that you could possibly want there. Washington just isn't a very good offense. A sub 100 WRC plus up against righties on the season. 21.2% K percentage isn't that great, but just a 123 ISO. I'm just going to roster a ton of the guy that I think is the best strikeout stuff on the slate. 32.4% K percentage. Thank you, Field, for completely overlooking the guy who has had the best track record over the last 3 years. Sure, Shane Bieber, he's a Cy Young winner. He's ramping up. He looks really, really good again. But Freddie Peralta has less ownership going to him by leaps and bounds. That just makes him a super easy, super enticing target to just jam in on DK.
Yeah, I know you were waiting for that, and you mentioned that in reference there. FanDuel, again, we talked about Alcantara being a pay-up option. You're going to pay a little bit more for Peralta, but with Bieber dominating so much ownership on the field, it seems like it would be worth the spend up here.
Yeah, he's worth it on FanDuel. 10.5 is what I'm looking at there.
Yep.
He's only 3%. That's like a no-brainer type play. Like that's a no-brainer if that's going to actually be his ownership. Maybe I should have played on FanDuel. Is everything filled on FanDuel? Please tell me it's not filled on FanDuel. It's filled.
I don't think so.
Yeah, the main one's filled. Son of a bitch.
I don't think
Whatever. So. It's okay. It's okay. I'll live. We all make mistakes. I didn't realize Freddie Peralta was that low owned.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to tell you, man. I was trying to just guide you to look. I'm helping you out. Gundacker wants you to blink once if you're in danger.
I blinked a lot.
Okay. Well, yeah, but you have to do it once. Like if you're blinking a lot, it's like hiding a sign, like in baseball. You have to just give one blink. Otherwise, the people at home.
I have the new arm technology. I'm able to signal back and forth with my pitcher from there.
Got it. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, see, I'm ahead of the curve.
I learned something. Is that what you were about to say? Are you stacking much against Peralta? I mean, you can gain a little leverage here with Washington. No. They're not owned. They're not owned at all.
Nope, not for me.
What about Milwaukee?
Nope.
Right.
Milwaukee, yes. Oh, sorry.
Don't force it.
Don't force it. Milwaukee, I'm okay getting to. I mean, we have a 5 implied total there from the Milwaukee side.
Yeah.
Aaron Sanchez is terrible. He's terrible, as Mr. Charles Barkley would say, is a terrible, terrible pitcher. Go ahead and stack up going up against Aaron Sanchez at this point in his career. Used to be a real life decent enough pitcher. 11.9% K percentage, 504 slugging. The opportunity cost is just all these other offenses that are in amazing spots. And now Milwaukee, which used to be one of the better offensive ballparks relative to the rest of the field. The Northeast is just really hot and the ball should be flying out of somewhere there, you would think. But this is an offense that top to bottom is stackable. Top to bottom against Aaron Sanchez, you should have shares of. So on that side of it, I'm absolutely interested. Apologize for being, completely non-enthusiastic about Washington for you there. If you rostered Juan Soto, I have 1% of him, whatever. So that's one share that I have of Juan Soto today. I literally don't have any other batter in any other lineup that I have today from Washington. So I have too much Peralta to want to go that direction.
They are a north of a 2-1 dog on the road with a total at 8.5. And they, in the team of Washington, has an implied DFS total of 3.3. I don't think anybody can, unless you have some sort of like out there formula here that predicts something that you and Alex and Terry and others missed. And I'm not talking to you, Eric Lindquist. I don't know who would argue with that, to be honest. Don't feel bad about blowing past Washington. All right.
Yep. I okay. Just making sure.
Chicago,
they are a 0% stack for me today.
Fine with me, by all means. Now, Merrill Kelly is a guy that you referenced. We also have Wade Miley, a little bit lesser to discuss here, but Kelly was somebody you brought up in reference a couple of times over. Now, just looking at him and where he stands in our top pitchers tool, he's right there as far as, let me get back to DraftKings just because I was on FanDuel there, but I mean, you're losing a ton of leverage. He is decently owned, because we have a guy at 54.3 and Shane Bieber who's heavily owned. So what are you doing with the pay down option of Miley against Arizona?
He's just being Miley.
Top 5? Is he a top 5 Miley if you add both names? Like Miley Cyrus is now eligible to be a top 5 Miley. That's my point.
She's number 1 Miley.
I'm just saying.
Oh man. Yeah, I can't think of another Miley that would have any kind of a shot. We need one of those Dean power rankings, a guy who works for another company that's a really nice guy from everything I've seen from his stuff in the last 7-8 years. But he always does power rankings on Twitter of different names. This would be a perfect opportunity to get the Miley power rankings in terms of names. I'm sure EMAC has something to add there. There's got to be some EMAC love there. But in terms of top 2 value, against Arizona, I mean, if it's not going to be just straight out downwind, you have this Arizona team. You had like Josh Rojas hit 3 home runs the other day. They were playing wiffle ball. Like they were just playing wiffle ball, hit it up in the jet stream and let it carry out of Wrigley. Wind blowing in today, 60 degrees in Chicago. Why not have some Wade Miley against an Arizona offense that is, they're dog shit. They're terrible. 76 WRC plus. It's just real 138 ISO. Okay, I thought it was Cincinnati. Cincinnati's a sub 100 ISO as a team against lefties. That is something to behold. But either way, Arizona 76 WRC plus. That ain't it. So if you get some Wade Miley as a saver, just fine with it. I've got a little bit, not 20%, but I've got a little bit.
I imagine going to be under the field to the near 17% ownership of Merrill Kelly.
No, Merrill Kelly is a pretty decent. I've always liked this Arizona staff, with the exception of Madison Bumgarner, quite a bit. I'm in love with Zach Gallen to like the ends of the earth. Merrill Kelly, I think, is a pretty decent enough pitcher, but the K percentage is never really it. He's more of like a season long. I know this guy can go out and get me some quality starts from time to time and be decent enough in that regard. But a 3.79 expected ERA this season, that's always going to kind of be decent, but just around a 20.4% career K percentage. It's not that he's got this flamethrower stuff. He's older. He's 33. He's just kind of been meandering around the bigs. Didn't make his big league debut until he turned 30, which is pretty crazy to see. He had been this lingering around the minors forever. But I think he's just a decent enough real life pitcher who learned how to pitch and figured out how to do what he does, which is just limiting hard contact, 35.9% this season, and just being serviceable. So Merrill Kelly, as much as I might like him for a year-long purpose, just in terms of eating up innings and keeping your ERA down, he's not a good enthusiastic guy to go overweight to in terms of DFS.
So you will be under, even if it's like 15, even if it's like 2 to 3%, just that number at 17%, the cost at 8,600. I get the matchup, but not even true, like top tier, top 2% on DK. I don't know if that changes much for you on FanDuel, since you're paying up and he's nearly 10K on FanDuel. So maybe you're even less. Now, granted,
that will be just go to Freddie Peralta. Just play Freddie Peralta. My God,
who's got less ownership anyway, and just a marginal, but still higher positive leverage score. So you're gaining a little bit here for what, $700 difference on FanDuel. So that's one side of it. The other side now, what you're doing with either bats, if anything, if this is an offense game for you with either Chicago or Arizona.
Not really. I mean, again, wind blowing in. If you got to some pieces of Arizona, I'd be okay with it. But it's just another stack in the portfolio. 3.3% top stack percentage, a little bit of positive leverage going Arizona side. And then it's, in terms of the Cubs, I mean, what, 2.2% top stack odds?
Mm-hmm.
They're not very enthusiastic guys. So if you had them fall into shares of 150, sure, but won't be any team that I take a strong stand. I think I have 1% of each.
By the way, shout out to Gundacker, who is not only providing comedic relief here on the chat, but also news as Tim Anderson got scratched.
I was gonna say he's not on my slate, so I don't have to worry about it.
Well, look, that's fine. You're not even playing FanDuel yet. We talked about FanDuel, right?
You're not even playing FanDuel.
Jeez, what is your deal today? Gundacker's here helping the show out.
Yeah,
And
he's doing lovely.
With that?
He's doing lovely. We're about to talk about that lovely game, my friend. You excited? Let's do it.
I am, but I'm glad that I caught that ahead of time so I didn't look like an even bigger jackass, and you don't do anything to help that either. So
that's hurtful, and you should watch your words. But yes,
Oh, now you're worried about repercussions. Beforehand, it's nothing. What are you going to pay Lofty or Awesemo to do something to me like I'm going to go after you with Jordan? Is this a proxy battle now?
All I know is that Mike, he basically admitted to murder. So cool. Or he admitted to murder for one of his friends.
I think he admitted to knowing about a murder and not doing anything about it.
Yeah, that is jail time.
I think it is. Yes,
it is.
I think you're right. Jeez.
Rip Awesemo. Rip.
All right, let's hit it then. Now we're on the FanDuel only slate. This is Eric Lindquist's favorite part of the show. We saved it just for the final 10 to 12 minutes. Not for you out there, but for him. So do us a favor. If you haven't already, if you're hanging with us over 500, hit the thumbs up button, and please hit that little button down there called subscribe, and even the bell next to it so you're not straggling in an hour late asking who Eric's top stack is, although we'll probably go back and look at that. All right, so let's pop in here with the Yankees and White Sox early action and where that's popping up for you on a FanDuel. Now, again, we're adding these two games in here, so I don't know how much, if it's Severino you're looking at, or really on the other side here with Kopech.
Looking at Severino, I mean, come on, this is you just got Tim Anderson out of the lineup. Like, welcome to the party. I think you got to be looking at getting to some of these guys now. It's gonna be decent enough. I'm trying to get all my FanDuel stuff pulled up here because just got all my DK stuff updated. That's where I'm playing at today. But this game, let me find. Here we go. Luis Severino, it's going to be just fine. I'm just making sure Jameson Taillon is not the starting pitcher here of this one. Why is he listed there?
That's a nice way to just destroy me and throw me on.
Jameson Taillon game one. That's what I was getting at, because I had a feeling that Luis Severino wasn't the starter from what I had seen. Jameson Taillon getting the start here for game one. Not going to be as appealing to get to. He's 9,200. I was kind of hoping that the price is a little bit lower on him there against a White Sox offense without Tim Anderson. That's a huge bat to be missing at the top end. So we'll kind of see what they end up doing there. Looking at the insertion of Josh Harrison isn't great for K percentage, 15.6%. I think he was the guy who got added, or it was Lurie Garcia, 22.1%. Still, if you landed on a share or two of Taillon, whatever. But not my favorite pitcher to land on. Sub 20% K percentage, really limits walk, really limits hard contact. You need to do that to be successful in Yankee Stadium. So good real life pitcher, but not going to be somebody at 9,200 to land on for DFS.
Okay, so both sides pretty much staying away from this. Kopech.
Yeah. On the other side of this one, isn't Cueto? Cueto's the starting pitcher, I think, today.
Okay, I'm going off of, that's fine.
It's okay.
We'll take the hit on our
no, you're fine. Again, they have two games today, and in MLB these days, that's always stuff to be paying attention to, because you'll get a game one, you'll get a game two, and they'll both be listed because these sites really get lazy about stuff. Or it might be something that for Cruncher they might not. They'll just be like, here, have the pitchers that we prospect to be the guys to go here. But it's Johnny Cueto on the mound, pitched way over his head his first time out against Kansas City. I do not expect the same results. You should roster the Yankees ad nauseum on the FanDuel slate.
Okay. Now, we have one more game before we get out of here in Coors Field. But before that, if there's any advantage or edge you find by adding these two stacks in here, this Yankees-White Sox game, if there's any type of leverage or anything you can do with either of these.
Yeah, I mean, the Yankees are going to have negative leverage, but it
Right.
just doesn't really matter to a certain extent because of how incredible this offense is. You need to have shares of Anthony Rizzo, 3,800 on FanDuel. You need to have shares of DJ LeMahieu at 3K leading off. Aaron Judge, Stanton have just continued to do Aaron Judge, Stanton things. I will say always be careful because I've found this to be the case on FanDuel, where if you run projections and you don't have enough randomness targeted up, or if you're running 4 threes, and you're not choosing your one-offs very carefully by either having a one-off section in your fantasy cruncher deal where you just have the one player and you can kind of pick and choose which batters you want to have be the one-offs, you'll get a lot of Aaron Judge as a one-off. That's usually the way that he's most popularly used. You know, you're garnering a ton of attention for a batter like him every single time he gets out there. He's 4,300. He's garnering a lot of attention. We don't have it updated about the number. You're looking at him being around 25, 30% every single slate, even on these 10 gamers. So I would not play Aaron Judge as a one-off. He will be an inclusion. If I were playing on FanDuel, he would be an inclusion of all of my Yankee stacks, but I would definitely be making specific rules to not have him as a one-off.
Okay. And that's a good way to kind of break it down because, again, at the end of this show here, we're adding these last 2 games. So there's definitely going to be an increase of interest when you have a team like the Yankees. Let's wind down. We'll go to Coors Field here. Rockies, Mets. And where would you like to begin here? Where are you gaining the most edge from stack to pitcher of the 4 options?
Well, I mean, we're going to be talking about offense. This is Coors Field that we're talking about here. And Austin Gomber has been a really fun pitcher in terms of real life stuff because he just has the crazy ground ball rate, gives you an opportunity to be successful in Coors Field. But even still, that is not a deterrent from getting to a Mets offense that top to bottom has ability. And now we're seeing a 525 expected slugging now for Austin Gomber. Still limiting the hard contact, 36% on the season, but the fly ball rate has started to come up on him here. 10.4 degree launch angle now for the season. You just want to get to some Mets here on the other side. And looking through some of the prices for them over on the blue site, I think you're okay. Let me just kind of go through. I mean, Peter Alonso, Francisco Lindor, but both of them over 20%. They fall into that category of wouldn't want to get to a lot of them as a one-off. But Mark Canha, 3,300, batting 5th, sub 20%. The guy is just really starting to come alive. Much better than the 120 ISO that he's had for the season. You're just in the best ballpark possible. Winds blowing out to left, 10.5 over under. Both teams definitely are viable. And considering it's the last game, maybe people aren't paying complete attention to. I find it hard to believe with how much people are using optimizers nowadays, but you might get lower ownership on them than you might expect.
Look, I think you're onto something there. I do have this, and this is up on Odd Shopper, so nice little shameless.
Yeah. They're the most negatively leveraged team as it stands right now. The Mets are on the FanDuel slate. So they've got the highest top stack potential, but I would be very specific on how I put together that stack. Again, that's why I'm looking at like the individual batters because nobody's going to be rostering Tomas Nido. I don't really even think Thomas Nido would roster Thomas Nido today. Jeff McNeil batting 3rd, I know is Terry's best friend in the entire world. And Travis Jankowski going back to his San Diego days and then Philly and now here. He's never had power at any point in time, always been a speedster on the bag. So those are basically 3 write-offs. It's a pretty condensed rotation, if you will, of guys that I would want to put into my 4-man stacks on FanDuel. It's basically the 1 through 6, removing Jeff McNeil. You're basically looking at 5 guys that I'm really that enthusiastic about. I will say Guillorme, 7th, shortstop, 2,500. That's actually a nice piece too.
Jump in. You can still get it positive money here. BetMGM. No run first inning. Mets Rockies plus 110.
I dig it.
Really like that. I mean, Gomber, you mentioned, it's starting to slip a little bit. Walker, look, 2 games yesterday. You know the nature of playing the twin bill on Saturday, coming back to end a series on Sunday. Little different if you spread that series out. Rockies put up, 11 in the second game last night. They're due for a slow first inning. I'm telling you, get it at plus 110 at BetMGM.
Yeah, fire it up.
All right, here we go. I think that's it, man.
Okay, cool. That was enjoyable. I'm just finishing everything up. Do we want to kind of rehash everything? Because it is live before lock. We've got I'm just finishing up all of my builds here. Again, I put in all my regular 100. I'm just finishing up and getting one more run of everything. I ended up way underweight to Tampa Bay. If Tampa Bay goes nuts, you're not going to see me at the top of anything. Be very careful. Kevin Kiermaier is a guy that is now leading off for Tampa Bay. And I think just makes a one-off that you kind of want to avoid for the most part. He will show up a lot as a one-off for you. And he doesn't feel like the kind of batter that I want to be playing, like 35% of to get over the field. So I'm cutting his ownership in half from around 22 to 11%. I think that's an interesting talking point for DraftKings purposes. But for the most part, Brady Singer is the make or break. Oh, JD Martinez scratch. So get him the F out of your lineups quick. Oh God, I had a little bit of him there.
You're going to have to do something in the next couple of minutes. And while you do that, I did see earlier on the chat just asking and this is a good time to kind of rehash any last minute questions, final 3 minutes or so here before we lock. But just looking at it, and FanDuel, I don't imagine it's going to change much. I know you're not getting to actual like real world lineups, but your number one stack, who are you getting to the most tonight? Or today, technically, geez, it's only 1:32.
I'm getting to the Dodgers in an amazing
healthy amount, right?
Yeah, healthy amount of Dodgers here for me today. Healthy amount of Baltimore as a contrarian stack. I already talked about all of the uncomfortable feelings I have in my body about that, but we're going to make it happen anyway. Looking at the Phillies, I'm a little bit higher on the Phillies than I thought I was before. I'm getting to around 6% of them now, even up against Gonsolin. It was hard for me to want to pull the trigger, but it looks like they're going to be completely unowned here on the other side. So I'm okay going to them, shorting the Twins dramatically. And then Houston, I have tons and tons of Houston.
I love it, man. By the way, 285, I have it here in PA. Bryce Harper going long.
Yeah, why not? Here's the thing. I shouldn't have watched that game last night because if I didn't, he was shaking his elbow like the entire time he was at the plate. It was really kind of concerning.
But he's still hitting. Isn't that a marvel to you?
It was his first game back in a week.
Well, look, 285 to go long. I'm in. All right. I suggest others tail.
Yeah, others got to sweat the Baltimore stack. Yeah, we're going to be sweating the Baltimore stack hard, fam. We're going to be sweating that one hard.
Yeah, you are really heavy on Baltimore.
I have 10% of them, and that's a ton on a slate like this.
No, it's definitely got to sweat the ball stack. If you read that fast, you know what it looks like.
Yeah.
Right?
See, otherwise your lineups end up like that. Josh Gilla, my lineup's so chalky. SMH. Yeah, it's not what I'm going to be doing today. I'm definitely getting off the board. Rooshman, 23% of him. Welcome to the league's big kid. Join me. He's 2K on DraftKings.com. Hard not to be absolutely in love with getting to that.
Love it. Love it. Anything else you want to clean up here? Which home city has the best food you've ever eaten?
Ooh, I mean, I live in Los Angeles. Come on.
No. Well, I'm not going to vote for Philly like you won't vote for LA.
Yeah, but nobody would vote for Philly.
People, I guarantee you, people would vote for. Look,
for over LA.
Go back and I'm not going. Yeah, because here's the thing: you don't feel bad about yourself like you do anything in LA. You feel bad about yourself because that's just the city. It's just a drag on you.
What's wrong with you?
You see this report about how much plastic you eat each week, like a credit card. That's LA. You're not from there, so that it doesn't mean that to you.
It doesn't mean that to you.
See?
I think we're at lock and we should probably go.
We're out. We have 17 seconds to go. See you. That's Eric Lindquist. I'm Shander Show. Thanks to Tyler for really putting up with our shit. And you out there. And look, we don't even ask much. Just hit the thumbs up button and make sure you're subscribed by all means. KC is the best barbecue on earth. All right.
Yeah, that counts, but that's not all the food. LA has all the food.
Oh, my God. Get out of here. Go back to L.A., will you? Go back to Los Angeles. We'll see you next week.
Philly fans, tell you what.